You may not find us on your TV, because in case you did not know, we're being brought to you by
OTR.
Brought to you by
27.085 megahertz.
Brought to you by RADI.
The Old Tube Radio Network.
All right, thanks to Stan Freeberg and XWL 4000, RADIO, in this case, Old Tube Radio, in our 35th year of hanging out here on Saturday evenings, here being channel 1127085 in the Central Valley of California, waiting for our tube radio operators and their collections to stop by. Before that, we'll be checking in and talking to the shortwave listeners who, like myself, enjoy listening to those old tube radios. So we'll get started. One look around the control room here to see if there's any smoke. Not so yet. We'll see what happens as we start at the top of page 1. If you're playing the home game, you should be focused on the date of 9/14/2019. I hope everybody made it through the Friday the 13th and the full moon. OBP over at the video. Hello, everybody who's watching at YouTube Live says after 11 days, still no sunspots. But I think they've promised to show up at some point here in cycle 25. Let's see if 00 is out there.
00 is here.
All right, we've got you checked in. We'll bring the S meter up so people can give themselves a radio check, and away we go. Thanks, Phil. Also, check-ins for SWL1 and Mr. OBP, SWL2, who is waving a hand over on the live video stream. SWL3, I will check in, who is somewhere... And sometimes he actually, from his remote location, is able to make it into the net here. But he is out in the big contest that is going on up in one of the hilltops. So maybe he'll dial the big transmitter down and say hi to us a little bit later. SWL4. SWL5, Ida, Mama Rose, saw her earlier this week, and she was doing good and said hello to everybody. SWL6, SWL7.
SWL7 checking in.
Checking in and checked in. All right, it's not a, I was thinking it might be one of those money-making nights, but you are by the radio, so good deal. Then we go to email check-ins for SWL 11 and 12. And how about SWL 13? And I'll keep an eye on it. I guess I should refresh my other page here and see who is out there listening and saying hello. Got some people coming up. Mr. JT, who was on the, what was it? It was a Lafayette, some type of an SBE Lafayette that I've never... radio that I've not seen before on the old radio night, sounding good with the extra ground rod. Maybe it's actually growing. Maybe it's one of those crystal things. I don't know. Like I said on the comments, I don't know how that's even possible. Got some people on the video side, and I will pick all of you up at the appropriate time. SWL 14 in the big town of Easton. SWL 15. SWL 16, shortwave listeners 17, SWL 18, SWL 19, shortwave listener 20, I was looking on my notes to see if I'm supposed to proxy or if I've got a post-it saying he is going to be in far-off lands. So it's possible Harvey will be in the radio room tonight. It was a warm day. It warmed up again. It was 101, 102. I was up at the Society of Broadcast Engineers Barbecue and Picnic at Meadow Lakes, which is about 4,500 feet to the north and east of here. up at the transmitter sites for most of the radio and television stations, and it was nice up there. It was still 80, probably in the mid 80s, but it was very nice, not like the 100-degree temperatures we had here today, and it's showing 87. I know it's not 87 in here, but it does feel a little bit warm. Who is next? SWL 21, Mr. JT, who made the big appearance at Old Radio Night tonight. And JT, good to have you aboard. And I liked the radio you've got. He must have 100 radios. DD21 has, and he just brings one out. That's what I don't do here. I don't feature the radios. The radios are featured as they check in. And he always has a great camera setup where you just see the radio in its all its glory, bigger than life, and they always seem to be different. So he must have. Have I said this before? What was it in the Peanuts cartoons? It's Schroeder, and he's got the closet full of pianos and busts of Beethoven. I think that's JT has just a closet full of 100 radios that he pulls out each week. Got you checked in. Next is SWL 22. SWL 20.
Now, either you're getting faster or I'm getting slower. I think I'm getting slower. I was inside, you called a certain number, and I moseyed on out here. I think my moseying is getting slower. Please check me in, 2954. I think it's 84 and his whole entire family. Did I get that right?
You got that right, and we are going to have a live appearance from 84 coming up. So I will not do that one, but I will do all the other ones. And if you're listening on the Universal Media Network, sometimes there's a delay. So if you hear me check in SWL3, I might actually be in reality in the virtual CB world at SWL 19. So that could be for the delay, but. I know your key down footprint, and I wasn't that far away still on page 1, so we got you checked in. Hopefully you can brave the heat and hang out in the Radio Shack with us a little bit tonight.
Well, it's still awfully warm out here, so I'm going to go back in, but I should be back out a little later. We'll check this one in, and maybe I'll fire up another one. We'll see how it goes. Thank you, Dennis, and we'll be back after a while.
Perfect. Thanks for checking in. We're on the shortwave listener roll call. The real radios, those glow-in-the-dark radios that were the kind that you could buy, maybe the only kind you could buy, from 1958. By the way, it was September 11th of 1958, just days ago, but 61 years ago, that the FCC banged the gavel and said, yes, there will be a Class D 11-meter citizen radio server. So happy birthday to all of us here on 11 meters, the new and improved 11 meters, I guess. Someone might say, some might not say. And we are sort of reliving those days from 1958 when the first radio you would buy would be all tubes. And you would give your call letters and you would say Unit 1 to base or whatever you would do, and have a great time, and that's what we will do here tonight on the Old Tube Radio Network. Coming up in about a half an hour after the roll call, 20 is checked in, 21 is checked in, 22, I don't know. How about SWL 23? SWL 24? SWL 25? A lot of things going on today. You had to pick and choose. If you had an event that you were going to, more than likely you had an event that you were supposed to go to that you didn't. So hopefully everybody gets back in time. I don't know if Fresno State's playing tonight, so there could be a lot of people out there. We'll get some scores if possible. Heading over to page 2, I want to say hello to, let me go through the list of stations that are listening at oldtuberadio.net, from California to New York, South Carolina, Maryland, Colorado is in. Waiting for the E-skip. Even though we have 0 sunspots, does not mean that we wouldn't get conditions tonight. We'll just have to see. Listen to those 10-meter beacons. We've got Australia's in. Hello to Central California, Meade, Washington. Brooklyn, New York. New York is always good. I was listening to a Facebook replay of some of the guys on 75 meter AM that sounded every bit like KNX and KOI. Some big audio coming out of the Big Iron on the East Coast. Where are the West Coast guys that sound that good? Hello to Maryland. We've got the UK in Kentucky. Up there in BC, I think that's Albert and Peter listening in, waiting for some conditions. Out there in Squamish, we got Oregon and the unknown SWL with the bag over his head, his or her head. You know who you are. Page 2. And again, still, I should say, the crossband is down and out. So if anybody's listening on the simplex frequency, and here's a check-in, I would appreciate a relay if possible. SWL 27. We've got a proxy check-in for Mr. Loner, SWL 29. And that takes us to SWL 31. You know, I didn't see Tennessee. That'd be Robert and Teresa. They'll probably be in a little bit later. SWL 32. SWL 33, myself, Bozo Control, the Jingle Singers. Everybody's having a good time. I think we've got all the wires set up correctly. So we'll be hearing from them as we did. We had the big show open. The big show opener. I guess that's the directive said that's our top of the hour thing now. So I'll see if I can remember to turn up the right audio source for that. SWL 34. SWL 35, and let me run down and see if Mr. Bill, who is always pretty much on time, and there he is, X in the square. Out there in cowboy country, Mr. Bill and the Red Monkey Traveling Show, bringing good 11-meter happiness to the good boys and girls out there, out in Cheyenne, Wyoming, where winter is probably setting in, but I'm sure you had a good day today. Thanks, Mr. Bill, for tuning in to the Old Tube Radio Network. Over to SWL 36. SWL 37.
37.
And 37 is checking in. Hello, Chris, over.
And good evening, Tom Dennis. I hope you're doing well.
I am doing well. I'm well fed today. We had a big tri-tip barbecue up at Meadow Lakes. And of course, they always give the skinny guy stuff to bring home. So I had a tri-tip dinner as well.
Well, there you go. You know you ain't going to starve tonight or maybe even tomorrow.
No, I'm not. So if I come of food poisoning, you know what happened. No, I wouldn't do that. It was good. It was good weather and good to see a lot of people. And I kicked out of I did go on the transmitter. Had some other stuff I had to do, but they usually have a little transmitter tour and things going on up there, which is always very interesting, which I did not do. Got you checked in. Looking forward to some radios later on.
I will try. We're getting ready to watch a movie, but I will try. But remember one thing. You do have a refrigerator. Make sure you put it in there. Don't leave it out all night tonight and try to eat it tomorrow. No, it went in the refrigerator. I got home. It's been cooked up, and the other pieces that I didn't eat, the Charlie Alpha Tango, will be enjoying that for sure. Thanks. You picked that poor little kitty for all of us. Have a good one, Dennis. Thank you.
The Old Tube Radio Network. And it's Gerard out there in QLD, Australia, listening in Rockhampton. Again, give it some time, and we'll be hearing you guys at the beginning of the net, probably this coming up next summer when the sun stays up longer. Should be fun. SWL 38, SWL 39, SWL 40. Well, I'm going to check him in because he was up at the picnic barbecue today. In fact, he was riding shotgun in the OTR vehicle up the hill for the SBE event. SWL 41, SWL 42, shortwave listener 43. SWL 44. I do indeed, I believe I saw Mr. Delta X-ray over on the video side. I want to confirm that from somewhere east of Fresno. All right. Probably a lot east. Probably not within rock throwing distance. Ray, we've got you checked in. Thanks for beaconing and tuning in. Let's go up the hill a little ways. Probably about, I think Meadow Lakes is up at about 4,000, 4,500. I think Paul's at about 2,500. SWL 45.
Have a good night, Dennis. 45.
Well, the transmitter's working. My receiver's real noisy tonight. I'm going to put a lot of RF gain attenuation to not drive the SWLs listening in. And I'm looking at the S meter. I can see the S meter here, and it's in front of me. Hello. Looks like my power is actually up a few watts. All right, well, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as nothing starts smoking around here. Thank you, Paul and Kelly, SWL 45. Thanks for checking in.
Thanks, Dennis.
SWL 46. Shortwave listener 47. All right, my foot switch is running away. SWL 48. From somewhere east Fresno, I think. SWL 49.
Hello, Dennis, and a big old hello to all the SWLs out there tonight. Mr. 49er is checking in. Again, hope everyone is doing well, and we appreciate the check-in. Thank you.
Indeed. Shooting the power to the tower tonight. Got you with 5 over S9. Sounds like you're in Midtown. Got you checked in.
Well, we did a bunch of antenna work here a few days ago, so sounds like it paid off. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, let's see, 5 dB, and I think I'm going to say you probably added an easy 10 dB, sounding good here at the Old Tube Radio Network. SWL 50. Shortwave listener 51.
Shortwave listener 51 checking in, Dennis.
Also with a good signal. And the microphonium in the DX make it to Midtown Fresno. Driving up to the hill today. What was it I went by? With Academy, where Academy cuts off and heads off down there into Sangertown. You are sounding good, Dave.
Thank you, Dennis. Have a good evening.
SWL 52. And shortwave listener 53.
Hello, Dennis. 53 checking in.
SWL 53. Mr. Belair. Hello, Bob. Thanks for checking in. Over.
Thank you, sir.
And we go over to, if I get the right page here, to page 3. Let's see who is in. Bob and Steve in Ohio. The private jet is busy tonight, so we called Cream Fresno on Barstow Avenue to DoorDash deliver. I know it's been very quiet over there, so I figure there must have been something very tasty with ice cream and cookies and cake and the special brownies for the Jingle Singers. Maybe that's why we have the giant show top opener tonight, and there is an audience. You'll hear at the top of the hour. It sounds like they have an audience out there. Yeah, they do like you. They tell me all, you know what? They tell me all the time how much they appreciate what you do in a manner that makes me feel that they don't appreciate as to what I do. But I don't do anything for them, so I'm glad you do something for them. And yes, they might save something for me, but they will save the empty dishes is what they will save for me. We're checking in. One of our cosmic check-ins, SWL 54, and I'm sure we will hear some of his handiwork tonight as the Old Tube Radios check in. Let's go up to where it is always nice and cool, and the evenings are getting even cooler. SWL 55.
55 checking in.
Where it might even get 55 tonight. It might get lower than, no, I don't know. It was warm today, but you are sounding good. I think M&M gets our high altitude check-in award. Even he's up above where I was today. If I kept going up the hill, you drive into M&M territory. The guy that got us started off as 00, SWL 56.
56, just for kicks.
And still sounding good. How do you stay, what is it, calm, cool, and collected for that second check-in? Thanks. SWL 57. SWL 58.
SWL 58 from the Dry Ditch Banks of Iowa. Thanks, Dennis.
Yeah, we had the windstorm, was it last week? Blew all the dust around, and we had good air for one day. Good to hear you back in the air chair, and we've got you checked in. Jeremy is one of those kind of on-demand guys that's, when you're popular and good-looking, it's hard to sit in front of the radio, but I'm glad he made it by tonight. Who we got? SWL 59. That's why I'm always in front of the radio. I never get a chance. SWL 60.
Evening time, Dennis and the fellas out there. SWL 60 checking into Big Jake Base, the DX 2527.
2527, it says right here. Jake's 2901. Sounding good, sir. We've got you checked in.
Thank you.
SWL 61. SWL 62. SWL 63. All right, the mouse isn't working. There we go. I'm going to put an X in the square. BB up there in New York. And there was a couple of stations listening in where it is heading into Sunday. Way out there. Angle in New York in the very front row. Down here in the footlights. And Brooklyn is also right in the center there. Hello to Florida. I was just tuning in. Amsterdam, a couple Amsterdam stations. Lake Elsinore. We would have to get that weird conditions like we had a couple weeks ago when we were here in the desert. And the guys in Southern California on kind of the bouncy, hoppy skip. Sheriff of Nottingham, Wayne is in. Hello. Friar Tuck is listening. And a very good morning, as it is... What about 3:30, 4:30 in the morning out there where he is out? Thanks for tuning in. The Old Tube Radio Network tonight. Smarty Jones, of course, listening. Buttered Bean, listening in. Thor, and there was somebody. SWO 145. We'll talk to Tony, he's coming up. Upgraded his license today. That sounds like a good thing. SWL 64. The break OTR, go ahead, over.
Right, that's 61 checking in, Dennis.
All right, well, the net controller is waxing poetic here and probably quick keying. Otherwise, you've been right there where you were supposed to be. We're on the page. Back up a few for Dean. We got you checked in.
Thanks, Dennis.
See, I've got this wall of audio equipment here, so the jingle singers who are in the other side in the other studio cannot get the hook through the rack here to pull me off when I start talking too much. SWL 65.
65 checking in.
A 6 and a 5. Hello, Eric. You are sounding good here on the Old Tube Radio Network, and we've got you checked in.
Thank you. Have a good one.
SWL 66. SWL 67. SWL 68. Shortwave listener 69. SWL 70. I probably drove right by SWL 70's location today up there in Morgan Canyon. SWL 71. I don't think I saw Stan in earlier. He may be You know, that's right. It's contesting time. A lot of contests going on. So Stan may be doing the contest. He probably told me last week what he was up to. See if he gets a chance to get in and give us a report on how the contest is going. Up there, waving, jumping, beaconing, shining the flashlight down here into the air chair from the balcony. Robert and Teresa, SWL 31. I see you. Your trickery has worked to get you a check-in while we were still doing the SWLs here. SWL 72. SWL 73. And somebody said 73 was going to be at the picnic today, but I did not see him. SWL 74. Shortwave listener 75. SWL 77.
Let's get Dennis, let's get 1017 checked in.
I will do that. Sometimes when I'm tuning up, I'll hear him in there with his big tower power signal, but again, lots of things going on today, so he's probably doing stuff. Got him checked in. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
And Richard, SWL 78. Did I see you? Yes. 105. Are you kidding? I didn't think that happened where you're at. Is that possible? That you beat? I think we had 101 today. All right, 78. That's right. How could you forget? You flip over and put on that special needle, and we'll do SWL 78. Okay, I get what you mean. Let's see, 78 is in. Let me click the official thing so it says that you got checked in. There you go. Somewhere this is logged. There's some log thing, and I don't even know how to find it. But if I went back, there would be years and years and years of SWL check-ins with those little marks and things. So if I have to click the mouse, then it registers that you are indeed checked in. Okay, and it was 105. Oh, and there's Stan. You know, Stan, I missed you. I didn't click the right button. There it is, SWL 71. So I'll see what you got. Info on the Johnson Messenger 10, which is the 10-meter version of the Messenger 1. Very interesting. Same tube complement as the Messenger 1 with 10 watts input. Came with a set of crystals for the AM national calling frequency of 29640, which is now an SM repeater frequency. That's right. I didn't know that. And I wonder if the standard 10-meter version, the standard 11-meter version is modifiable. I wonder if they use the same tubes or something. Interesting. All right, we'll talk more about that. Maybe, Harvey, if you're listening, the Johnson Messenger 10, what do you know about that? You ever seen one of those? I don't, and in my 10-meter AM musings, I've never talked to anybody on a Johnson Messenger 10. I've talked to some people doing some converted CB sets like the CarD phone and some other items, but never that one. And Stan, we've got you checked in. Sorry I missed you earlier. Oh, and there's a link. Good deal. All right, thanks. The Old Tube Radio Network, radios are coming up shortly after the roll call. 78 is in. How about SWL 79?
79, check it in.
All right, I thought I heard you out there earlier, and he's saying, Dennis, will you unkey the microphone so I can get checked in? You are checked in, sir. SWL, where's Cliff when we need him to make that noise? SWL 80. Go over to page 4, SWL 81. And I have to check. Sometimes Steve will make it in on one of the sidebars here, and I will totally miss him. So keep an eye out for that. SWL 82. Was I supposed to proxy 82? I think I will. That may not have been listening properly on that one. We got the ditch banks checked in, but they're accounted for. All right, let's try this one. Instead of the proxy check-in, we will see if we can do a live and direct for SWL 84.
84, Dennis.
All right, that is signal is good. I didn't look at the S meter that's right in front of my face here, but your audio is good on the radio, so don't feel shy about if you're listening in and about keying up and making some comments. We will definitely hear you.
Check, Dennis, and also my girls.
All right, we will get them here momentarily. Good to hear you on the 11-meter airwaves.
Thank you, Dennis. Lightning strike last rainstorm took my antenna down, so this is definitely a makeshift organization here. 84.
All right, lightning strikes are a bad thing, and as I'm kind of studying and putting together my notes for getting the towers and antennas back up, I always see the little lightning arresters, phaser arrays, whatever. I'm thinking, will those actually do something? If you install them correctly, would they help? If you're not around to undo anything, so I don't know. Maybe I'll move that kind of stuff to the top of the list because it doesn't sound like fun at all. So I'm glad you are kind of back in line on the air with the MICKEY, which is doing fine. We will get everybody checked in.
Thank you, Dennis. Just melted it completely, so thank you, 84.
Yeah, I've seen some radio insides when they say they got struck by lightning in there. Not a pleasant sight. Hopefully there wasn't any other big time damage. We are on page 4 looking, let's try Reedley, SWL 85. And then we will check in SWL 86, SWL 87, and shortwave listener 88. That's the Mountain Maid, Tandy Girl, and the Snowy Owl, respectively. Over to SWL 89. SWL 90. SWL 92. SWL 93.
593 checking in, and good evening to all the SWLs.
And good evening, sir. SWL 93, Sandbagger 1, and you have competition tonight. 111 out there in Squamish, BC. Gene is sandbagging OTR as well on the digital side. So we are covered all the way around, I think.
Cool deal, cool deal. Alrighty then, I'm still bagging.
All right. Me too. And the radios. I'll have a chance to sit back when we start checking in radios tonight. Let's see. 93 is in SWL 98.
Checking in, Dennis.
All right. Looking good. Boy, I think the cooling system in this room has stopped. It's up to 92 in here. I will check that at the break. And speaking of cool, Mr. Cool himself for Fresno Dave. We've got you checked in, sir.
Thank you, Dennis.
Perhaps out in the mobile unit, SWL 103. Okay, nothing from Jeff. How about SWL 109? SWL 110? See, again from Reedley, SWL 111. Refreshing my comments to see if we've had a check-in from Reedley Town earlier. Don't see anything, so I'll keep an eye out for Robert, SWL 114.
114 checking in.
No problem with that check-in. Sounding good, Wayne. Thank you.
Thank you for the check-in.
SWL 128 on the digital side. And I want to see if 128 has put an item of interest in yet. Doesn't look like it. I may have missed it, but I'll keep keep an eye out here for John Lee out there in Fairfax, VA. How about SWL 131? SWL 133?
Good evening, Dennis. 133 checking in.
133 checking in and checked in. Sounding good, Dave. We've got you on the list tonight.
Thank you.
SWL, let's see, 135. Got a proxy check-in for Cliff. SWL 137. And SWL 145, Tony, who is out there? Let me go over to this screen. This is getting complicated here. Doesn't have a CB back yet, but he is waving a hand over at the Old Tube Radio video side. Said he smoked past his general class test today, so he is now, what did we used to do? An AG. When you give your call, and I don't know if you still do that or not. This is back in the days when it took 8 weeks to mail your upgrade. And so you would sign, when you immediately ran home and fired up the radio and went to the general portion of the band, you would sign your call with the slash, if you were on CW, slash Alpha Golf. I don't even know what that would be anymore. Something like that. Anyway, but you would say AG, awaiting general or something like that. So you were an AG, but not for long. It will just be a regular general. And good. You will not be sorry that you did that. It opens up all sorts of things that you can do with 100 watts and a wire, as they say on the podcast. Thanks, Tony. Good deal. Let's go to SWL 147. And you know what? That is Neil, and I know he wasn't in quite yet. He's always good about kicking in right as I'm about to call his number, so let me refresh the screen. Don't see Kakalaki in yet. Let's try up in Course Gold, SWL 195. Yes, the full moon, Friday the 13th, full moon that isn't supposed to happen for another 30-something years, and it was clear. And I went outside very late at night, and I wasn't attacked by any werewolves or the cat. Everything worked out nice, and it'll be almost full tonight. And again, happy birthday to the Citizen Band this week, 1958, when we all got that chance to become 11 Class D 11 meter. Thank you, Jim. We've got you checked in, and then let's go up to SWL 226. Anybody I missed, or anybody out there before we head over to the tube radios that needs to get checked in, etc., etc.? There is Black Horse Militia. It's been a long time since he checked in, yeah. And he's also a new technician. Good deal. Might we ever get our links back up, depending where you are at, if we get a echo link or something. Could work out, or I don't know, wind system, who knows, and who else? Sierra Mike Uniform, a KB8. I'm a KB6. I always like to see a KB something. Is listening in from the Buckeye State. 219 is waving hello to you. And all right, I'm going to jump out of the air chair. Jingle singers are here. I want to check the cooling system. We'll be back, and we will be talking about those great, glorious tube radios here on your old tube radio network. Back in a bit. All right, let's see if I did this right. You're listening to the Old Tube Radio Network.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? Greetings to you, wherever you are. For music and the latest news from home and from afar, the station for you is
OTR, Old Tube Radio.
The station for you is
OTR.
The station for you, and maybe even you, the Old Tube Radio Network, here at 27085 Channel 11 in Central California, where we're doing the live version if you're watching or listening on September 14th at about 8:42 Pacific Daylight Time. If you're watching us later on the video, this is what we do on Saturday evenings, and we've been doing it since the mid-1980s, where we sit back, relax, and talk with the tube radio operators around the area here, and just kind of recreate what it might have sounded like maybe on September 12th, 13th, that week in 1958, when the Class D Citizen Radio Service opened up ever so long ago. In the meantime, I will sit back and say we are listening for radio number 1.
Number 7.
45.
Boy, I'm having trouble with that foot switch. SWL7, hello, Mr. Ed. Walk right up into the air chair here. We'll get you set up at 8:43 for radio number 1. And hello, Paul. Have some cookies or whatever they're doing. I don't know what Bob and Steve did for refreshments, but it seems to be a big hit over in the green room with the Jingle Singers and Mr. Announcer and everybody is there. So have some fun, and we will call you here in just a minute for Radio 2. That's Paul, SWL 45. In the meantime, I'm bringing up the list here that I need to mark down all the stuff, and I'll say, hello, go ahead, Mr. Ed, with your item of interest.
From Tram Electronics, the TR-27 Echo, 23-channel transmit and receive.
As they say, 23 channels, no waiting. And let me get the pictures fired up here. Usually when I bring up the first picture, everything is sort of out of whack. So what I'll do, if I put that one up, yeah, that one's always where it's supposed to be. So the Tram TR-27E, fortunately, we are able to, and we don't do this all the time. In fact, we don't do it most of the time. But this time we were able to show the picture of the radio that will be transmitting here in just a moment from your collection. Back to you.
Yes, yep, that's the picture of the very radio. In fact, in that very same spot. It doesn't really move. It fits there pretty good. Yeah, big green machine there, 5x7 speaker, very nice, large, swinging little meter there. And the window on the transmit channel could be just a little bigger. The view for the receive tuning's quite large and easy to see, but the transmit, not so much.
That's right. If you're looking at the video, if you go to OldTube, if you're listening, you go to oldtuberadio.net, and there's a video picture. If you're at YouTube, you can click on the link. And what Ed is talking about, below, you've got because it's so small, I think a lot of people miss it. You've got the tuning dial that's right in the center, next to the big S meter. But that is the receive tune. That's a VFO. So that's not a click stop. That is not crystal controlled. And back in 1963, when these came out, the rules were you had to be crystal controlled on the transmit, but not on the receive. So the transmit crystal control is the small knob down on the bottom below the little red switch in between the phono or the mic plug and the other switch. And yeah, it's got that little cutout where it says XMIT channel. I can't tell. I'm going to assume that if there's a bulb in there and it's working, that it would at least illuminate the window to help things out. Over.
Actually, the only bulb there is up by the S meter, so you only get a partially lit number down there for your transmit channel. So yeah, it's a little hard to see. I should probably wire another light right behind it.
Could do that, or you're into the the LED things. So might be able to do some nifty LED something or other. Let's see if I can change to the ad. There it is. Except I don't want. I just want the ad. I think that would be right there. And at least Tram was good enough to give you some tech tips. So maybe one of those tech tips, like number 75, is how to make the channel selector so you can see it. It's sounding good. I know last week it was having was it that radio was having some buzzing or something? I may have heard it once, but I think it's behaving tonight. Give us another transmission.
Yeah, I had a little bit of hum in there. I do believe it was probably my switch box. I started noticing it was not behaving quite nicely there. It switched the switch box, and it didn't really switch the antennas all the way. I could hear it on multiple radios, so isolation, not so good. Oh, and I also have the Electro Voice 638 microphone.
The EV638. I used to have a handy little quick window up for the EV638. I don't have that, but what I'll do is I'll probably bring it up a little bit later, because that's actually an important thing I want to talk about is microphones, and that microphone is very popular with the high impedance tube radios, especially the Collins guys. You see, I'm getting the Collins Collectors magazine now, and I tell, it seems like just about everybody who has a picture has at least one of those style of old EV microphones. The D104 is cool, but with those radios, they want the big, heavy, kind of classic style of those microphones. So you're doing well. I'll go back to you for another transmission. This is our first radio of the evening, the Tram TR27E, as you can see, from October of 1963, and that's service tip number 1. So that's when these radios came out. It was the end of the line for the Tram 27 series. Their final one, but their big, bold, top of the line, most expensive. I'm trying to think if I have a price. Do I have a price point on that? Let me just check here. No, I don't. But I'm sure it was well over $200. Back to you for transmission, and thanks for bringing it by.
Oh, and thank you. And with that, we'll take a listen for a little bit and bring another radio.
All right, good deal. The Old Tube Radio Network, Real Radio's Glowing in the Dark. My name is Dennis, if I didn't say so, and I'm one of the many net controllers that we have had throughout our 30 years here, 35 years or so, running the net, and I'm happy to do so. Let's go over to SWL 45. And did I mention you don't have to have any type of SWL numbers, or maybe even you don't even have to have an old tube radio to key up and say hi to us, but we appreciate all the stations out there that recognize that this is the place. If you've got, for some reason, you found a glow-in-the-dark radio, plug it in carefully, gently, and pop it up here on Saturday nights. Give us a call. You don't. First timers are always welcome. There are no dues. There's no secret handshake. Everyone is welcome. Hell, and this guy is an old pro who's been doing it since pretty much we started day one, and he's got a collection. Perhaps I might be exaggerating a little bit, but I think Paul might. If we were on, well, I know he could do this. If we were on once a week, which we are, he could check in probably a different radio each week, 52 radios, which he often does. We'll see what he's got tonight. Hello, Paul.
Yeah, how's that? Yeah, I'm watching you on the other one. Boy, I think it's flashing in my eyes. It's a Pierce Simpson CDB-5. Charlie Bravo.
And that is, did you say that was from Pierce Simpson?
I'm sorry, come back, please.
Who was the manufacturer? Was that a Pierce Simpson over?
Pierce Simpson CDB-5.
Okay, let's give it a try here with the Pierce Simpson CDB-5. Should look something like that. It says it's actually from your collection. It's almost, did you paint the front of that, or did it come like that? It looks like he's got a special custom paint job over.
I got the thing in my hand here.
So it's definitely in there somewhere if you can find it. But I don't know if I can run this out. Did you see the CDB-5? Did you get that okay?
Yeah, I think I've got it, and it looks like it is from your collection. It's got the blue decorations across the front. Looks like it could be 5 channels or so. Over.
You got it, definitely. That's the little radio that come out from Pomper Electronics in 1961. The article, matter of fact, I wrote it on this there, probably showing on the screen there. But yeah, it's a real neat little radio, and I think it's the first radio that Pierce Simpson made, to be honest with you, as far as a CB radio like that. So the other ones after that coming up in the later years, like 59, 60 was this one. At 61 they got into probably about 5 different radios going there in 2 or 3 years, so they really branched out. But I really like this little radio. It's a neat little radio. It's got a place in it right below the light that's flashing by right now. That's a modulation light. Boy, it's bright. Right below that, you can see those down there. For somebody can write in their own letters or whatever. I'm glad nobody did on this one. It's all free. So, anyway, thank you, guys.
Yeah, it looks more modern. My notes are telling me that these first came out, and I think you're correct, 1959. So this would have been their first, the first year anniversary in September 1958. This would be their first offering pre-1960. 5-channel crystal control transmit and receive, universal transistorized power supply, 11-tube performance, super Het receiver. I think one of the first receivers that came out was a Heathkit, and there was a couple of them. They were super regenerative receivers, which is good, but not so good. So it's good to be crystal control like this one. Carbon mic, Pi network output, pilot bulb, output indicator, and a TV eye trap. So you are probably not making any wiggles on your television somewhere. Over.
Yeah, I just mentioned something about the microphone. That's the same microphone that's come out. I researched that and found out. I wrote it down. I forgot where I wrote it down at. But I know what kind of mic that is. And it's definitely stopped that fake microphone. That plastic, however. Anyway, I tell you about that light in here. They put that light in here, plastic, real bright when you modulate. They didn't even bother to put a light in before a turn on switch. You don't know whether the thing's on or not unless you look at it through. I don't understand. That kind of gives you an idea. It's a pretty old radio. Not in Sam's at all. They haven't got that. Thank you, Dennis.
That's right. Peek into your radio. Peek into your radio and see if it's on. I think I have the. Do I have the peek into your radio? Yeah. Peek into your radio and see if those tubes are working and doing what they're supposed to do. Talking with Paul, who is the owner of the radio you see there, the Pierce Simpson CDB-5, one of the first, or maybe the first radio from Pierce Simpson. Ran a couple years, 1959 to 1961. Sounds very good. I've got the S-meter up, so I'll leave that up when you make another transmission. So if you watch the radio or watch the video back, you'll be able to give yourself a radio report. You are radio number 2. It is sounding good. I myself have one of the later Pierce Simpsons that I've actually run here on Net Control, and it's a nice radio. This is before they had even an S-meter, and the later Pierce Simpson had that really tiny S-meter, and they used it for all their models. But I guess prior to 1961, you were lucky just to get the 5 channels. Back to you for a transmission. Over.
Yeah, okay. I'll just take up. Now, this also has the mounting deal for a mobile. Mounted onto the thing. Really strong up there. Just a quality little radio. They built a big heavy tube. They built real heavy out of heavy metal. Real pleased with it. Back to you, Dennis.
Yeah, my notes say that it will do 12-volt DC, so there must be another plug. I'm surprised it's not a 6-volt option as well. It seems like most of the early radios all gave you a 6-volt option, because there were still, I don't know if in 59 or 60 they were making 6-volt autos, but I know the mid-50s they certainly were but that would look nice in the '59 Buick sitting up on the tail fins. Back to you. I'll give someone one more transmission, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move over to the receiver, and we'll do a frequency check on this thing. Over.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. So I took it right out of that, put it on here. I guess that's the low, I don't know. But anyway, that's where it comes from. So that's the information I have, and that's the only information I have. I wish I had more. Thanks a million for checking in, Dennis.
Well, thanks for bringing it by. It's really close, right on frequency, maybe 80 cycles high. You hear the zero beat when I kicked into sideband. I didn't have to go very, very far to find you on the Pierce Simpson radio, sounding good here for radio number 2 on the Old Tube Radio Network. Thanks, Paul. I also want to go to Neil and get him checked in, SWL 147. Let me bring up the SWL radio list. No, I'm sorry. Yes, he is 147. How could I forget? And get you checked in. Checking in late. Not sure if you were contesting or what was going on. But anyway, you managed to sneak into the radio room and say hello to all of us, and we're glad that you did that. And the Old Tube Radio Network is standing by, listening for Radio 3.
Break, go here.
And speaking of checking in SWLs, that might be a bit late, but we're still on the air. You can't be late. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, maybe a little bit late. 50 checking in, and would you proxy 165, please?
All right, 165. Who would that be? What would the name of that person be?
Door. He goes by Mechanic.
Okay, get 165 checked in, because I don't have a 165, but I'll check anybody in. This is the Old Tube Radio Network. We've been here so long. If you've been on the air as long as the mechanic has, you deserve to be checked in. Also, because this is the bonus hour, and because you are here during our radio time at 8:58, we're going to check in your radio that you will quickly tell us about. Over.
Why, certainly. Golden Eagle Mark III sideband and a stock microphone on it.
It's doing what a Browning Golden Eagle Mark III. I think you've got the SSB. You could have an AM version, but it's doing what the Mark III should do. Over.
Copy that. Thanks for letting me check it in. Have a good evening.
All right, thanks for coming by and giving us a check-in here on the Old Tube Radio Network at the top of the hour. And now they've got the directive here. Let me get back to the control. We got the directive here from the big brass that at the top of the hour we have the new and improved. Oh man, there's a lot of people over there at the other studio, and I want to make sure they are ready. All right, they appear to be ready, so I will just sit back and see what they do. Here at the hour 2 of your Old Tube Radio Network.
You may not find us on your TV, because in case you did not know, we're being brought to you by
OTR.
Brought to you by
27.085 megahertz.
Brought to you by RADI.
The Old Tube Radio Network.
All right, the Old Tube Radio Network, fanfare and all that. There's an audience tonight. They're having a good time in the studio. We're having a good time right here on the air. The Old Tube Radio Network with your radio check-ins. We are looking for radio number 4.
45.
I hear you trying there, Paul. SWL 45. Give us another transmission. We'll see how it's working.
Okay. If you got it all right, check in this radio here. So I'll get right back with you.
Okay, I am ready. Sounds like it might have a capacitor somewhere in the power supply that's not real happy, but I hear you fine over.
You know, I think we went through this last time. That was unhappy. It's still good on the meters, but I didn't have it. Now I'll be able to check it in on the archives and see what's wrong with it further. But is it readable?
Yes, it is. And the other possibility would be something coming in on the, like a grounding issue on the microphone. So if it's not showing up that way, it could be something with that as well. You know how these old tube radios are? They can do those types of things. But anyway, go ahead. We hear you fine. Over. Oh, we did hear you fine. All right, you know what? Maybe I'm thinking maybe it is a microphone thing because your key up is fine, but your audio was low that time and it had less hum. So if you've got any type of a light modulation indicator, just kind of keep an eye on that, and we'll see what we can do here. But try it again. Over.
Okay, I went back up to the kind of thing. So it should be louder, still more meters.
Yeah, go ahead. I think we can get you. What have you got?
Okay, go ahead. Check this in. It's a BK Cobra Cam 88.
All right, the BK Cobra Cam 88. Let me see. Last time I looked for a Cam 88, they said we didn't have a picture, and I'm thinking, why not? But we actually have two. So I will bring up those two pictures. And I know those can have some really wicked audio because who runs one? Dennis runs the Cam 88. It always sounds pretty good. So try it again. But there's definitely something going on. I'm thinking it might actually be in the microphonium circuit. Over.
Very good thought, because this thing is not the original mic, it's a newer type microphone. I wish I had the original one. I'm going to have to know this pencil wire and one and see what happens. But next time, if I can remember, I remember we went through this last time. So appreciate it. That's one way to get the radio stretched. Anyway, it's 24 channel, got 10 tubes in it. Pretty good sized radio. 24th position, rotary spot, wide. It has 12 mixing circles, 24 channels. Meter, I'm just trying to read this off the thing. It's modulation kind of moves quick. We already talked about that. And it's good on the radio, actually. But all these real nice. And that's color well ventilated. I like this so well. And anyway, that's you.
Yeah, it's doing a good job. I got a really good signal on you, and the audio comes and goes. So I think it's something on the microphone. I would think if it was a power supply issue, it would sort of be staying the same all the time, but it moves around with your audio. The Cam 88, and give me. I see where the microphone plugs in. What you said it was a different microphone. What microphone are you using on that? I didn't catch that.
It says Cobra right on the front of the thing.
Oh, all right. Well, it should be happy with the Cobra microphone. Just don't walk away too far with it. Don't stretch it. Right now, it's keying the radio and it's giving you audio. So on a Saturday evening, that's the best we can hope for, I think, when you're checking in. You are Radio 4. Haven't had a Cobra stop by in a while. I'm going to say this is one of their last. They had the 98, but one of their. Not their last, but close to their last tube radio, and I don't have information on it. I was looking for a price, but these were probably up in the $250 range. Over.
Yeah. This, like you said, this was the last one they made. From there, they went into quite a different thing and everything. it's supposed to be all hand wired. And they went into the other one with a lot of stuff in there, like resistors and all that stuff. So it made quite a difference. The other radio kind of a pretty one. This kind of neat too. Kind of a pretty cool place sort of thing. And it's got a nice meter which works, modulation light. Got the down controls on the thing, so it does a job. It's nice looking. Back to you.
All right, and what did we say earlier? Your fact that you could probably give us a different radio each week for 52 weeks. Because I know you've got enough generals maybe to do that just with the general radio telephones. But you can add in Brownings and Cobras and all the other items as well. Cobra Cam 88 sounding good, albeit a little bit noisy on the microphone circuit. I think you'll hear it if you watch or listen to the audio or watch the video back, but you can see that the signal is coming in just fine. Give us another transmission. You are Radio 4, and as always, we appreciate your efforts here on a Saturday evening on the Old Tube Radio Network. Over.
Okay. No, this thing, I tell you, it's back to great again. I wish they had changed the microphone. They put it in the microphone. That's word. Yeah. But it's surprising. It's still pretty radio. Nothing bad, but that's about all I got. Thanks, Dennis.
All right, thanks for bringing it by. Radio number 4, the Cobra Cam 88. You are listening to the Old Tube Radio Network.
Number 7.
And I am awake now. With the 20 over signal with, you may have the long ping going on that to get my attention. You've got my attention. Number 7, you have Radio 5, over.
Well, there we go with the Browning Golden Eagle R68 T68 with the microphone that has the little BL label on it for Browning Laboratories, but it's made by Electro Voice, the banana mic.
Doing a good job, and if Harvey is listening, which I'm pretty sure that he is, I think he is contemplating that there is probably going to be another R68 to T68 checking in. Over here is the full page ad from Golden Eagle. Probably, I want to say, when did that come out? 1967 or so. And even has the the microphonium in its little stand. It shows the speaker. I think we've determined you do not have the $25 speaker edition, right?
No, I don't have the speaker, but yeah, the little stand and the microphone. The stand is a Model 417 Electro Voice Incorporated, Buchanan, Michigan, made in the USA.
As are most of the radios that check in tonight. I don't think we've had a Panasonic chassis check in yet, so it's all made in America, sort of before the overseas invasions that pretty much put a lot of the companies, even in the amateur radio business that were around, out of business. But the radios were well made and they were good, and that's why they are still around and keying up. $395. I got a price point on this one, so just under $400, top of the line for a Browning, just before the Mark II, a Series 1 and a Series 2. I believe you have the Series 2. It has either a spotlight or the variable RF gain control or a 3-position switch for RF gain. Sounding good, over.
Yeah, mine's the Series 2. It has the selectable 3-position RF gain instead of a variable, which been experimenting with it a little bit. It actually works fairly decent.
Well, when I talked, or through the years when I talked to the Browning owners, the transmitter speaks for itself, but as an operator, I think 199 and 44, 100% of them say it's the receiver too, especially when you stack it up against other items. Maybe the tram would come close, I don't know, but the receiver is the key on that, and they did a nice job with the filtering and whatever they needed to do to keep them top notch and in line with any, I guess, amateur radio shortwave receiver that might pick up 11 meters as well. Radio 5 sounding good. We'll go back to you for a transmission, and thanks for bringing it by. There are a couple of those Browning Mark Nunn operators. 84 is out there listening tonight, and I know there's one on his shelf somewhere as well. So, again, thanks for bringing it by, and we'll go back to you for transmission.
Well, thank you for letting me check it in, and yeah, I'll take the Mark Nunn. I'll have to remember that, and we'll sit back and take a listen for a while.
Indeed, you are listening to the Old Tube Radio Network, and speaking of taking a listen, the Jingle Singers are, let's take a listen to the Jingle Singers.
How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you. Wherever you are, your favorite spot on the dial by far is known to you as
OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network.
the station for you is
OTR.
And we are looking for radio number 6.
Break OTR.
All right, I've got 2 stations there. Let me take the break OTR SWL check-in. Over.
Yeah, this is SWL 40 checking in.
All right, you are back at the control point, safe and sound. When I last saw you, you were sort of riding off into not into the sunset, into the sunrise that had happened long ago. And I'm glad to see that you are back safely at the SWL 40 control point.
Yes, after drinking many gallons of water, I did make it across town to my home QTH and picked up one of my old antennas on the way, and hopefully we'll get that antenna set up soon.
Oh, good. Is it something that will make you bodaciously loud here?
No, it's going to make me audible on the lower frequencies.
Ah, okay. Like super low frequencies?
Well, not super low, but we'll try to resonate it as low as it can go. But probably 80 and 40.
All right, good. I've got one in a box, all wrapped up, that should make me sound really good on those frequencies and all over the place as well if I get it hooked up properly. Got you checked in. I know we've got another station standing by that I will pick up, but good to see you today. And let's see, you probably know what I had for dinner.
Yes, but did you share it with the Charlie Alpha Tango?
Yes, indeed I did. There were many parts of it that were like, I don't know if I want that part. So the Charlie Alpha Tango was saying, yes, I want that part. So it worked.
Oh, fantastic.
All right, thanks for checking in. The Old Tube Radio Network. There was another station out there, I think, who is patiently standing by. OTR is listening for your transmission. Over.
45.
And it is Paul. Hello, radio.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't let the night go by without checking in at General Radio Telephone, so I'm going to check in my Super MC11A.
That is a good choice. It's very possible that indeed we will get another one of those coming by tonight. And there is, from Cliff's collection, 135, a very great shot of not only the radio, but the standard microphone, which I'm not sure you're using, but the audio is good. Back to you on the General Radio Telephone Super MC11A.
Yeah, the microphone on this thing is the most uncomfortable mic I think I've ever keyed up. It's not like the picture microphone thing. That's one of the newer styles that they put this one and that one up there all on the same radio. I don't know why, but I'm using a CM-3 General Radio telephone microphone. It's made by Turner, and it has a CM-3 logo on the front of the mic, so it's definitely General Radio telephone 100%. Anyway, it's the same as a 360 Turner ceramic microphone. The thing is just so small in my hand. I don't have a giant hand, but it keys from the bottom. So you're keying the bottom of the microphone, and it's very difficult. It can be done, but it's not comfortable. So anyway, I'm sure this is the same microphone that they had. It was a General Radio telephone microphone, and it's a Turner mic. I don't know if General got into the thing and tweaking them or something like that. I'm sure they do, because their mic sounds so much better than the standard mic. Anyway, back to you, Dennis.
Yeah, there's no reason to put a amplified microphone on those radios if you have the proper mic. So I just was trying to see if I could see where the push-to-talk on that one is, and it's on the side. So I've never heard anything like that. Maybe they thought it was better for mobile. You know, you'd have it in your hand a certain way, or maybe maybe you're supposed to be standing on your head or something. I don't know. But it sounds good. It's keying the radio, and the audio is there, so no problems.
Well, I'm glad, because this mic, apparently had been in the basement or something, and it was all musty, and it wouldn't work for about 3 or 4 months. I said, I'll just try the mic again, and it started working. So you're talking about an old beat-up mic. It's not beat up, it's real pretty, but I'm sure it had to dry out for a few years. It's really strange. I have some strange things happen to these radios. Anyway, thanks, Dennis, for checking it out.
Thanks for bringing it by. Radio number 6, General Radio Telephone, the Super MC11A. 9 tubes, 2 transistors. Not their last radio, but, well, possibly, because the MC12, which came out after that, was, Skyhawk Communications. But anyway, this was maybe the biggest and the best. The ECLL 800 modulator output tube helped a lot with giving it that sound. And it was, if you get them with the right microphone, it will rival any Buddy Bass, Browning, Tram, no problem whatsoever. Thanks for bringing it by.
You're sure right, and you're sure welcome. No, it definitely is a super radio. It's one of their best ones, I think. It has to be, with that, like you say, the modulation. It really kicks it on. Thanks again, Dennis.
And thanks for bringing it by here on the old Tube Radio Network from General Radio Telephone. Want to say hello to the mighty KUH. Hello, Brian, who is at one point, maybe still, tuning in to the video here of the old Tube Radio Network. Hope all is going well in his Radio Shack that is modern and tubed. Sort of the best of both worlds. You can go to the new stuff, and when you get the hankering for a little bit of boat anchor activity, you just go to the tube radio operating position and do it that way. That's sort of the way I like to have things set up. We are looking for Radio 7, and you are listening to the old Tube Radio Network.
Number 7.
Number 7. Oh, this will work good. And I'll put the 7 in the 7 at 921. And it seems like we are still in the alphabet, in the B's. I detect a Browning item.
Yep, in just the slight ping mode. The Browning Mark III SSB with the Golden Eagle D104, so double eagle.
The double eagle, I have a good shot of not only the Browning stacked receiver transmitter for the Mark III SSB, but to its side is indeed the Golden Eagle microphonium as well. So not your setup that we're showing, but a good indicator, a good representation of what it is that you are doing there, and it's sounding good. Back to you.
Yeah, that one looks almost exactly like this one, just a couple of minor differences. Otherwise, exactly the same, even the same type of microphone. Keying it down, of course, I like the way Cliff does that. Keying it down, seeing the on-the-air light come on, makes it really nice.
All right, now I have a question for you. Maybe it's not relevant to what we're doing, but I'm just curious, as an operator on the receiver, that has a great receiver. It has a very good RF gain control. On the one I have around here, and I'm sure it's not adjusted correctly, if you put your RF gain to max, at least on the meter I have, pretty much everybody pegs the meter. So sometimes I'll know that, well, on most of my radios, this person will give me a 30/9 or 40/9 or 20/9, and I'll set the RF gain so that is the meter reading that I get for that person. And then everything else is off. So I don't know. Do you just leave your RF gain wide open and you get what you get, or do you somehow calibrate it with the S meter? I know that's a stupid question, but I just have to ask.
Yeah, if I crank it all the way up, practically everybody slams the thing. So to make it a little more manageable, also on the ears, the static not so bad. Now, like you yourself, your signal comes in at just under 40. So that way everybody else is still, I get a good gauge from it. It doesn't make it all weird and wacko, and that's pretty much how I gauge it, because you're about the closest person I hear other than Wayne down the street, and luckily I haven't heard him on AM from that close.
Yeah, that's if you set him for 40 over, probably you won't hear anybody. But it still receives okay. It's just, you get to used to looking at the meter as an indication. Of course, it's relative, and I notice on that radio, just kind of you can dial your own, you can roll your own, if you will. And I haven't read up enough to say or to find out if Browning recommends this is what you would do, or if there's some calibration that sets it a certain way. But it's a great receiver and a great transmitter. Our 7th radio, the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB, and had the FCC not changed to 40 channels, I just wonder if they would have what they would have done for upgrading the thing, because they produced them from 1972 through 1976. At some point, they probably would have had to have some type of a facelift just to keep up with everybody else. But it was necessitated. It was necessitated for everybody in 1976, when if you had a 23-channel radio, you were pretty much toast, because nobody wanted to buy a channel 23-channel radio once 40 channels came out, unless of course you've already modified, which most people have done with the VFOs. Back to you, Radio 7, sounding good. Give us another transmission, and thanks for bringing it by.
Oh, thanks. Well, all they really would have had to do was modify the transmitter, because the receiver goes all the way up to 595. 27 595, no problem. Just add a few more crystals or do a little something to the transmitter, and they would have been right there. Darn, I wish they would have.
Yeah, that's correct. I forget about that. And that was 1972, and at that time, a lot of people were already going above channel 23, especially mainly for sideband. I think if you went below 1, you were pretty much doing AM. And so the receiver, there was no problem with having the receiver go wherever you wanted to, and it didn't have to be crystal controlled. Just the transmitter had to make the part 15 rules. So they're pretty smart in sort of making it so you didn't have to. if you put the VFO in your transmitter, so then the receiver's out of date. So they did that for you. Pretty smart. All right, thanks for bringing it by. And the Jingle Singers are saying once again they'd like to do a little something here. So here we go.
How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you. Wherever you are, the friendliest station for you by far is known to all as
OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network.
the station for you is
OTR.
This is the Old Tube Radio Network. We are looking for radio number 8. If I find the foot switch, well, let me take an old buzzard transmission here. We were talking earlier about the Class D Citizen Radio Service, 1958, September 11th, I think it was. So this week, but back in 1958, it was created and authorized by the U.S. Federal Communications Commission. And the earliest radios on the market that the researchers can tell are one, a Heathkit model CB1 called the Lunchbox. They made a lot of Benton Harbor Lunchbox style radios, but I think the first people to actually jump in and be ready was Heathkit. You know, let me see, if I do this right, I can put a picture of that, and this is from the collection of Rick Clark, who did some, and I'm going to be referring to his research that he did about the beginning of CB radio here. So let me see if I can patch this really great picture that Rick's got. Did it do anything? All right, let's see if I've got a picture of it here. No. Okay. I'll have to see if I can find anything. I'll be right back. I want to make sure I get through this because it's very interesting. All right, there is the picture. And again, this is from research and information by Rick Clark. And we're talking about 1958, Class D is the new Citizens Radio Service. Used to be an amateur radio band, and if you look at some of the early radios, 1955s, the Collins and Hallicrafters, Heathkits, they will have 11 meters, you know, not crystal control. But anyway, we're looking at two radios. One is the Heathkit CB1 Lunchbox, called by Heathkit, Benton Harbor, Michigan, in kit form or fully assembled. And that was available by the fall of 1959, and it's being shown there with the original Turner microphone. CB1's not a particularly rare radio, but rather novel nonetheless. And to the right of that is the Magnolia Electronics Incorporated model TC27 Town and Country, made in the garage of its young entrepreneurial founder, Edward Chubin, C-H-U-B-I-N, in Utica, Michigan. So remember Utica. And it's a TC27 Town and Country. Ed had a friend working for the FCC during the creation of the Class D service, so he had insider technical information available that allowed him to build several of these radios that were immediately available for type acceptance review by the FCC when the service was authorized. We had a discussion about a month ago. Somebody asked about what was the first radio? Who was the first one out of the gate? And it appears from this information here from Rick Clark that the Town and Country TC27, it wasn't even in Utica, but it was Ed Chubin in Utica, Michigan, knowing some people at the FCC and knowing that they were getting ready to create this Class D citizen radio service and having his radio ready to get type accepted so that when they banged the gavel, he could have the first radio. The radio was utilized surplus military components for economy. The company was later moved to Chicago, Illinois, and renamed Utica. Utica was out of business by the end of 1967, an early victim of well-made and economical Japanese imports. We were talking about that. Most of the radios that we've checked in tonight are from probably 68 and before, and they're all U.S. made. This model was very likely the Town and Country that you're looking at there, if you're looking at the video, the first Class C or Class D CB radio that hit the market, although the particular radio that they're showing is not among the first. This one is serial number 2517 and likely assembled by the summer of 1959. Looking at the date of the crystal. The model is quite scarce. We've had the Utica Town and Country checking in, but it was the Utica. It wasn't here from the 1958. He's got the microphone he's running on this great setup that he's got. It's called the Voice of Music tape recorder microphone, and he had to figure out how to get that 9-pin wired into the radio. Both radios have single transmit channel, and were very economical, super regenerative receivers, which are somewhat sensitive but have poor selectivity. I had a walkie-talkie with a super gen receiver, and exactly what he's talking about. Someone talking 2 or 3 channels away can cause severe interference even if their signals are well behaved. That's why you used to hear channel 6 all the time. Both radios used a levered knob on their front panels for push-to-talk. Pushing the lever down turns on the transmitter, and the switch has a spring return to reactivate the receiver when the lever is released, sometimes known as the flush-to-talk. And we've had a couple of radios check in like that. So you've got the early flush-to-talk. You know you've probably got one of the 1959 or 1960 models. So there you go. Possibly the first 2 radios for Class D back in 1958, the Heathkit, and of course the Town and Country that was being produced even before the FCC officially opened the ban. So thanks to the information and the very great picture from Rick Clark on that.
As Spock would say,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've had a CB1 check-in with that little kind of dynamic crystal microphone, but indeed, I would say we've never seen the non-Utica Town and Country for sure. Almost looks like, they said it was economical, kind of made from spare parts. Looks like an old power supply speaker case or something, and just add what you need to get it on the air, and away you go.
It almost looks like one of those movie the old movie theater speakers you hang on your window.
Exactly, or the things that have the lights coming out of the vents. So, there you go, building something out of your garage, and whether it's a CB radio or you're starting up Apple, you can do a lot out of your garage. And we are looking for radio number 8 on the Old Tube Radio Network. Speaking of starting a radio company in your garage, here's some other news. Not quite CB related, but radio related in the fact that we could benefit from it. It looks like anybody who is an amateur radio operator is probably familiar with the Flex radios. Not the first SDR, but one of the probably the most popular and the one that really made SDR radio take off. The Air Force has given Raytheon, we've had some Raytheon radios checked in, and Flex Radio a $36 million contract to develop an HF radio based on the existing smart SDR Flex 6000. So when you're given that type of R&D money, you can pretty much bet that great things are going to happen and that we'll all benefit some way. And that's what happened back in the 50s with Collins Radio and Hallicrafters. They got a lot of government contracts that actually kept them on the air. Remember, we were reading about the Hallicrafters company in its heyday with 250 employees. And I'm thinking, you know, you don't need that many employees to make CB radios. When you get $1 million contract from the government to do military stuff, then it keeps you busy. And that's where Art Collins and the gang produced and created a lot of things like the R390 receiver and things like that for the military. And then it trickles down to a lesser degree for consumer use. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that $36 million contract from Raytheon and Flex Radio and what they actually come up with for new SDR technology and things like that. What does it have to do with tube radios? I'm not sure, but I think we all benefit when R&D makes things kind of nice. Maybe there'll be some type of retrofit. Maybe we'll have the SDR retrofit for your tube radio. OTR is standing by.
Well, at least I found a good use for some old coax.
Well, hang on a second. All right, I think I've got the foot switch working now. Is it something to do with not using on a radio?
No, I actually made a dipole out of it. It works really well.
Oh yeah, there's probably there's actually one that you use the coax for the where they take the shield off. What is it? Is it a I don't know. I looked at one of those where you're taking part of the shield back and you're tying the shield together, and it may be easier to do with an easier flexible RG8 or RG8U. What type of coax is it?
Yeah, it's just a larger cable, but it was really old, so it needed to be replaced. I put LMR 400 up, and I brought that down. It wasn't long enough to make a 40 meter, but I made a nice little 20 meter dipole out of it, and it's 1.1 all across the band, at least as far as the general portion, down to 14.225. In fact, I just got it up, and unfortunately the guy was at 14.216, so I couldn't make a contact, but I heard Barcelona, Spain.
All right, the RX portion is doing well. And yeah, there's something, that's what you can do with, you get the dog chew coax. It might not be good for jumpers or anything else, but if it's going to be radiating a signal, which is what it might do, you want it to radiate as an antenna and not as the feed line going to the antenna. So that's good.
Oh yeah, in fact, it actually does pretty well. It barely raises up to a little over 1.3 all the way down to 150, so it's a great antenna for the whole band when I get an extra.
Well, it's working the whole band. 20 is about the only thing going on these days when the bands open up. Even 40 is sometimes not great. I heard the contesters today on 20. And still sunspots at 0. So, yeah, you can... Top of the cycle, you probably can throw it on the ground and make contacts.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of hoping. When the cycle picks up, I'll be ready.
Thank you, John. Bazooka. I think that's what I was looking. Bazooka or a double bazooka antenna, where it's made with the coax and you're putting trimming the ends and disconnecting things. I was looking to see if I could get a double bazooka on the lot here. because they can get the other ones is that and the EDZ extended double ZEP. When you start putting 100 watts in a wire or 100 watts and your coax. So yeah, don't throw that. You know, I've got some old coax here that I've got some. It's RG213 that I bought at Henry when I first got into this. I bought it at Henry Radio, and this would be 1985 or 86, 87. And I remember that guy at Henry Radio. He was just as crotchety. But I mean, he was good. He was like the Elmer you read about, you know, like the crotchety old guy. And I always knew it. I would come up with something, and he'd look at me and says, "What are you going to do with that?" And I'd have, you know, RG8 or RG8X. Well, I'm going to string it up here. And he says, "You don't want that." He said, "You don't want to use that." And he said, "You want RG213?" So I bought a bunch of RG213, and it lasted all this time. So I'll have to look at it. Maybe it should be turned into some antennas.
Oh yeah, if you got a good long run on it, and man, it makes it nice and wide banded, so it works really well.
And this guy, even back then, right, 35 years ago, they sold MFJ stuff at Henry, and you go buy an MFJ coax switch, and he would just look at it and say, "Oh yeah, mighty fine junk." So I don't know if he got a commission from selling other stuff or not, but I remember that guy. He was funny. Henry Radio. I spent a lot of money there. They're not even around anymore. Oh, they're tapping on the glass. The jingle singers are saying, "Stop talking and do what you're supposed to do." This is the Old Tube Radio Network.
You're listening in the latest style at
27.085 megahertz. Channel 11, Old Tube Radio.
In wonderful
Fresno, California.
Looking for radio number 8. All right, let me put the picture up. Here is the bazooka antenna. Thank you, John. If you're watching the video, step 1, figure out total length, find coaxial section length, divide by the frequency, solder the joint. So there's your coax. You got coax, but you take the piece of coax and you're taking off a lot of. And I know, Ed, you may have done something different, but this is the one I was thinking of, where you're using the shield and tapping into the center conductor and stripping things back, and it gives you the formulas, 460 divided by the frequency for the first section and the second section. So there you go. There's your bazooka bubblegum antenna.
Oh, there you go. No, I didn't do that. I just made a regular dipole.
Which you can do. What did you make? What did you for the feed point? Did you make some type of little connector, or you just, strip the thing off and solder your shield and your center conductor, and away you go?
There you go. Just the center conductor and everything twisted together and twisted around the screw and tightened up. And the other end twisted together and taped up.
Okay, I guess this is a double. This is called a double bazooka.
Yeah, I just used the regular 468 divided by the frequency and came up with about 16 feet 5 inches, and it worked out great.
Indeed. And what did you say, Larry? Over?
The velocity factor of the coax you use may screw things up.
For what?
Well, for getting a good match.
Well, the match wasn't a problem.
Yeah, because you're building it just for one frequency, right? If you try to use it somewhere else, you might have a problem for what it's not cut for. You use a tuner, but
yeah, I have it going directly through. It doesn't even go through a tuner. It's just direct through what, in fact, normally the bypass to use for like a dummy load. I just have it going through there. One-to-one.
Like somebody may try to use different coax or something, and they, I don't know.
Or if you have a balanced line tuner, you can run a big long length of wire up there with some ladder line and go multiple frequencies.
Double Bazooka is a unique design alternative to the dipole. It's made of coax cable instead of single strand of copper wire. The braided copper shield of the coax is the actual RF radiator, and the center conductor acts like a balun or matching transformer to provide a DC ground. The larger diameter of the shield braid acting as the actual elements gives the bazooka wider bandwidth and reduced noise over the old wire dipole. So it covers a wider range of frequencies on each band with lower SWR. As with the dipole, the feed line can be either 50 ohm coax or 400 ohm ladder line. Every comparison has shown the bazooka to outperform a standard dipole. Your mileage may vary.
Might be something to experiment with.
If you've got that old dog chew coax.
I have some more. But it's not dog chewed.
Or a squirrel chew, or the lawnmower did something bad to it. Or it's just old.
It's just old, like me.
That was an SWL1 thing. Whenever somebody had suspect coax, you used to call it dog chew coax.
Yeah, good old Dr. J.
Who's still listening in? California, of course, New York, staying up late. South Carolina, Maryland, Australia is still in. Hello to, it looks like Italy. Staying up late in Tennessee tonight. Florida, Maryland, and San Francisco up in the balcony. Oh, and it's X4000. All right. Is there... You missed the top of the hour. Thanks to X4000 for hooking us up with the Freeburg singers and all that, using our top of the hour. Maybe, I guess we'll do the next top of the hour, too. The audience is still over there. But in the meantime, we got, before we're counting them out, got some time for your comments. Radio 8, SWL check-ins, and all those things that we do on the Old Tube Radio Network.
Am I too late?
You are not too late. You are not too late. Let me put up a picture. Here's what Ed did. He just made a coax dipole, and it's easy. Strip 1 or 2 inches off the outer insulator off, cut the braid, and dress it into the leads. Do not cut the center conductor. Now, this is another way to do it. Solder the leads to the feed line. So you're actually using the braid, because that's a much bigger wire. You're opening it up, and you're leaving that center piece right in there. So 100 watts on a wire, and 100 watts are your old coax. Don't even have to go by the wire. So there's the other, that's the dipole. Cut it for the frequency. Cut it for the band you want. Don't need much for 10 meters. Don't need much for 15 meters. You can even do it for 11 meters. You could hang it vertically from a tree. All right. Speaking of which, SWL20 has made it out into the radio room. Hello, Harvey.
Hello, Dennis. That town and country that you had a picture of, was that a Utica?
Yeah, that was the Utica. Well, it was and it wasn't. It was made by Utica before they were Utica. Let me see if I can get that picture back, because it's kind of weirded. I'll put that picture back up. I don't know if you have a device set up to take a look, but we'll be talking about it, so I'll go ahead and pop it up on the screen here. That is the first town and country. This was, according to the author Rick Clark, it's very possibly the first type accepted, as you probably heard, 11-meter radio, because the guy knew somebody at the FCC and knew what they were going to do with the 11-meter band and sort of cobbled this thing together. It was Edward Chubin in Utica, Michigan, and it's a model TC-27 Town and Country. So notice it doesn't have the name Utica on it at all, because they hadn't, the company was later moved to Chicago and renamed Utica Communications. So this is before they even had the company. Over.
Was it called the TC-27?
According to the information, Magnolia Electronics Incorporated, model TC-27 Town and Country, made in the garage of its young founder, Edward Chubin, in Utica, Michigan. Over.
Okay, because Town and Country had the TC-27.
By Utica, right?
Roger.
Which was this company, Magnolia Electronics, when they moved to Utica, Michigan, and changed their name to Utica.
Yeah, okay. Because I'm trying to find another picture of it with a listing, but under Magnolia, but can't find it. But it doesn't look like the TC-27 by Utica.
No, it does not. And then when I was reading this the first time, I was thinking, how can that be? And then once he described what was going on, and the fact that this guy was producing them while the FCC was getting ready to open the band, as it were, and knowing what they required to get type accepted, and then he said, hey, now that you're doing this, here's something for you, and it flew through, and it was basically the first thing out and ready to go. And I think he said the company was later moved to Chicago, renamed Utica. Utica was out of business by the end of 1967, an early victim of the well-made and economical Japanese imports.
That'd be nice to find one of those. I mean, excuse me. For coughing there. I see the picture. It's nice looking. Be nice to kind of have one whether it was working or not.
Yeah, you can tell it was made in a garage. We were talking about it. It looks like one of those speaker boxes off of drive-in theater or a little, lighting box or something. But that's what you make in your garage. I just wonder how many exist. That one is pristine. I mean, this is a great collection from Rick Clark there, and some good history. So I found it very interesting. Speaking of interesting and history, I see you have sauntered out. You are hopefully have the doors open. I'm assuming that we've got a nice breeze blowing and that your radio room is a little bit pleasant for the couple of minutes that you'll have to stay in there.
Well, the temperature in the radio room is about how I feel, 78. Of course, I'm not 78 yet, but anyway, it's a lot cooler in here than it was before. I tend to get a little extra overheated lately, so I gotta watch it. But no, I kind of get a kick out of those unusual looking or type radios like that one there, and there's some that for some reason might be a 1 or 2 channel radio. I look at it and go, don't want one of those. But then some other one catches my fancy, because sometimes I lose my fancy and it has to be caught. But and then I end up with some weird radio. In fact, I think I might pull out my RK Skyvox radio just because it says that on there. But anyway, interesting. At the beginning, just about everybody made a radio.
It was like automobiles. When you go back and look at the history of automobiles in the early 19th century, or I mean the early 20th century and the late 19th century, you have a few garage engineers, and then you have all these companies that basically just started falling by the waysides in the 1920s, and of course the Depression didn't do much for a lot of people. But the radios were the same way, like you mentioned. Let's try this out. If it doesn't work, what the heck? Or a subsidiary of somebody else. It's like we can do this. So very interesting. And notice it has the pull to talk bar, which is I think another indication that you're pre-1960 on something early. I have found a shot of the R68 T68 by Browning that might be apropos to your particular situation there.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking on. This is the Browning Golden Beagle R68 T68 by Browning Lavatories with the custom D104 with the medallion. On the back of the unamplified D104, this radio was purchased locally in Fresno. And I went to a yard sale. Guy said CB radio. And this was back when you actually had to go to the bank. And I think they had ATMs. Yeah, they might have. But I went there. He told me how much. I had to go to the bank. Told him close his garage door, jokingly, because it was in his garage on a shelf. I said, close your garage door. I don't want anybody to see it. Anyway, I got the money and ended up with this microphone, this radio, and a 180 amp. And the only thing actually wrong was the 180 had a broken tube in it. And this radio caused the whole downfall of me getting radios. This was the one. But it was purchased locally, and I've had to work on it maybe once or twice. That's about it. It just keeps running. This was the one where I wanted to get a tube for the 180. Couldn't find it around here. The only place that had it was Antique Radio Supply or Antique Electronic Supply in Arizona. They wanted too much. Yeah, I've told this story before, but I don't know, bears repeating. And my wife came in the room and said, well, why don't you try eBay? And I said, what's that? Because I had no idea. And then she showed me. And that was it. So anyway, I bought a tube and a few things afterward. But this was local. About 4 or 5 miles from my house, if that, at a garage sale, sitting on a shelf. Anyway, I like this one. It keeps on ticking.
Almost.
What an ominous place to cut out.
Sounds like my story about 50 grand later.
Damn it, I missed checking.
Receiver on the transmitter and the receiver that had a variable RF gain control. And almost all the Brownings have that. I think, well, if they have an RF gain control, that's what they have. And why they switched to this with the 3-position, I don't know. But for this model, the Golden Eagle, it became the one that they seem to make the most receivers of, the ones with the 3-position switch, because without the RF gain control is very, very hard to find. I did find one, and I don't have room for it in here, but when I do find room, I will set it up. The transmitter with the spotlight and the receiver with the RF gain variable control. Anyway, that's it for me.
All right, yeah, you had a very... Just having all sorts of problems with the foot switch. You had a very fortuitous unkeying that you may not have been aware of right when you were touting the good things about that radio, but you came back. We were all holding our breath, and it came back. So I don't know, my finger just probably slipped enough off the key to undo something. I don't know, but I hear you good now, and a good story about the radio. You know, finding that radio was sort of like the bad friend that you get, that you ultimately get in junior high school, that your mother tells you, says, don't hang around with that person, but you do anyway. And then you found eBay as well. On the 3-position switch, that's interesting. I just wonder if back then they did focus groups and people said, there's this extra knob, and I don't know what to do with it. You turn it one way and the sound goes down, you turn it up, I just leave it alone. So maybe they thought, well, if we give it a switch, it's a little more user-friendly. It's like high, medium, and low. People, if you're not really into dialing a radio, you can get into high, medium, and low rather than, I don't know, turning this knob, the meter changes, I don't understand it. But that's just me. I don't know. I think I would rather have like you said, the full gain control, but that's mainly because I'm used to one and I know how to use it. Your radio sounds great. It always does. It is the classic Eagle sound done correctly without being where I'm hearing the walls, your audio rattling off the walls. The ping is great. The audio is crisp and clear. It is, I think, when you go to the dictionary and you look for R68, T68, that radio must be in the margin.
Okay. Did you say I went away? And when I went away, was it just the audio, or was it the signal too?
Man, this is driving me nuts. It was the signal too. Over.
Huh. Well, I was sitting down, and I can look at, when I sit down, I can't see the frequency counter or a watt meter, I can only look over at the radio. And on the transmitter, I have it set it forward and turned up about a quarter so that the meter doesn't slam over and it just fluctuates a bit. Well, before this radio, they had the R27, which had an RF gain variable control. Before that was the whatchamacallit there, the R2700A, which did not have an RF gain control, but it did have what they called an antenna tuner control. Oh wait, let me look at that thing. Let me make sure. Yeah, that's a noise limiter, that's right. Yeah, volume squelch and a variable noise limiter control. Anyway, and then before that they had the R2700, which didn't have the antenna tuner control. The tuner control kind of did bring up your gain a little bit. It was kind of like an RF gain control, but not quite. It kind of tuned in. I think it was in your RF section, or was it in the IF section? I have to look it up there. And basically what you did was when you tuned the band, like say channel 1 or 2, you tune this tuner control for increased gain, and when you went up to like channel 20 or 23, your gain would drop, and then you'd retune for maximum receive up there. So you had that control. And then they went to the R27, which had the RF gain control. Then they went to this radio, Golden Eagle, that they went both ways, the switch and the RF gain control. And after that, it's RF gain control variable all the way.
I wonder if it was a hardware thing. Maybe they thought, well, a switch would be easier, a switch won't fail as much, or switches save us some money. Although I don't think Browning ever cheap-eyes things. Just yeah, let's save 5 cents here so we can drop the price and put something inferior in. Interesting on that. Oh, and back to your radio thing, I would have to listen to the archives, but everything dropped out. But when you came back, you were just talking, and it's not like the transmitter rekeyed and we got the ping. Which is, if it totally unkeyed, you would think, 1, you would have heard the receiver, and 2, it would have, ping thing would happen. So I don't know. It's very strange. I have to listen to the archive, and you'll hear that you drop out. But it sounds okay now, so it might have been one of those things. What else? I was going to say something else, and I do not remember what it was, but I have logged you in as Radio 8. Oh, I know what it was. Totally unrelated with anything, but I know you probably do some capacitor replacements. Someone asked about Courier 1M when talking about mica capacitors, and if they're modern type, whatever that means, if it's okay to replace. I would think as long as it's, like kind, if it's plus or minus and all that, you would replace a mica capacitor with a modern type. But that was a question that popped up here.
Okay. My attention got diverted for a second while you were talking. Did you say I dropped out again?
I did not say that. You have been fine on all your transmissions.
Okay, what was the last thing you were asking me?
It was sort of a statement about changing capacitors. Someone had asked about mica capacitors and if they're replaceable with modern types. But I'm thinking if it's a capacitor is doing what a capacitor does and it's polarity is correct and all that, and you're looking at values, similar values, there shouldn't be a problem. But what do I know?
Changing capacitors in what?
They specifically said Courier 1M, but they were talking about a 101. So Courier 1M microcapacitors can replace them with modern types. New project for the 101 radio. So you want to replace capacitors, you can only get the modern types, right?
Well, I'd assume so. Yeah, I mean, if you want something new, in the Courier 1M replacing which capacitors and what part of the radio?
No specific. It was just kind of a generic, can you do this? So I don't know. That wasn't part of the original item.
Well, a couple of Courier 1Ms, especially Cliff's, and I gotta eventually, before I die, get over there. And his Courier 1M, the capacitors, the 1000 volt 0.1 or 0.01 capacitors that are on the AC line, kind of filtering and insulating the ground part of the radio from the AC line, they're bleeding and bleeding through. And every once in a while, not every once in a while, if he touches metal with the radio, it's about 90 volts.
Yeah, you got to be careful. I've been there and done that with trying to use the J38 key to keep the Browning radio, and you forget you've got, what is it, the B plus on that, and if you get your fingers anywhere near that, it's like, ooh, there's some big voltage here. All right, I want to see if there's any other stations that would like to check in, radio-wise or SWL-wise, do some counting and amounting, and return our frequency to normal. But you're sounding good tonight. You must have had your Wheaties this morning. And thanks for your information. And the Browning R68 T68 is sounding good for our Radio 8. Over.
Hey, Roger, thank you. Well, Scott is weird situation, medically wise. So, anyway, I'm not going to go into it on the air. But basically, I'm watching it for about, myself for about 2 weeks or so, which is up like today or so. And I'm going to start getting into finishing some radio work that I had to put off because I just wasn't sure. So I'm more sure now, so I'm going to get to it there. And that way I won't step on these radio. Oh, no, I didn't step on them, really. But I've got to finish up a few things. So anyway, I'll let you count them out. I'm going to go on into the other room where it's a lot cooler. And catch you next week.
Yeah, all right. You don't step on them. You usually end up kicking them, and you probably do more damage to you than you do to the radio. All right, do some counting and amounting, jingle singers. There's a whole bevy of people over there in the studio, so I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen to the sign-off here, but I know they want to do this.
You're tuned to
OTR, Channel 11,
right here in
Fresno, California.
Stay with us.
Old Tube Radio.
And be modern.
Counting and amounting. Be right back. do not have a carpeted floor, and the foot switch is just kind of sliding. I'm in a weird position, I guess. All right, is my audio still there? Why is it down so low? Something changed drastically. So maybe it's a good time to sign off before something breaks here. Yeah, my audio is down. I don't know what happened here. We're still at 2.5. I'm still okay there. You know, I'm going to bring it up just a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, that's good. And while I do that, we missed the top of the hour. I don't know if we paid extra for this package, but there's just all sorts of people over in the Studio B tonight. So let's do this so we can sign out of here tonight.
You may find us on your TV because in case you did not know, we're being brought to you by
OTR.
Brought to you by
27.085 megahertz.
Brought to you by RADI.
The Old Tube Radio Network.
Ah, yes, don't you love radio? The Old Tube Radio Network. Although we're actually putting a little bit of TV in there with the video, but maybe it makes for a better radio. I don't know.
This is the Old Tube Radio Network. Ladies and gentlemen, stand by. It's time now for the current OTR totals.
It's time, you're saying. It is about time that it's time. The OTR totals. In the SWLs tonight, we had 10 check-ins on page 1, 12 on page 2, 12 on page 3, and 12 on page 4, for a total of 46, if I added correctly. And radios tonight, we had 8, with the Browning Browning Laboratories being the most heard manufacturer tonight. And let's go down the list if I don't break the equipment here. The Tram TR-27E started things off. You just never know where things might go when you get your first radio. Thanks to Mr. Ed for that. Radio number 2, the Pierce Simpson CDB5. From first radio probably from Pierce Simpson in 1959-1960. Then radio number 3, Monkey's Uncle and the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. The Cobra Cam 88 was radio 4 from Paul. The Browning Golden Eagle R68 T68, one of the 2 that checked in tonight from Ed for radio 5. Paul on the General Radio Telephone Super MC11A for radio 6. Radio 7, Mr. Ed on the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. And then, as you just heard, the Browning Golden Beagle, right? From Browning Laboratories, the R68, T68, Mark none. And we could probably do quite well with those R68, T68s now that Ed's got his. And when the shack gets back together, and I'm hoping that there wasn't any collateral damage from the lightning strike, I know that Jerry, SWL84, has at least one of those on his shelf somewhere, so did good on the radios tonight. They're still, I'm going to head across the way here. They're still having fun next door with all that's going on, so I will say thank you for listening in and checking in, taking time out of your Saturday evening here on the Old Tube Radio Network to do what we try to do for the last 35 years, and that's have a good time on Citizen Band Radio as it might have been and how it sounded back in 1958 on September 11th when they said, hey, go for it. Maybe we're not using our call letters just the right way, and maybe we're breaking a few Part 15 rules, but I think we're being true to form in keeping this and if I say hobby, and keeping this thing alive called the Citizen Band Radio, such that it is here in the 21st century. Good night, everybody. Thanks to Frodex, searchlawrence.com for the Nixie tubes, and all of you for listening in to this particular radio broadcast. The archive will be up soon. The video stays up for I don't know how long. And, of course, we'll be back next week with your glow-in-the-dark radio check-in. 73, everybody.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you very much, Dennis. A big thank you for all your efforts in this net and all these years. I know we really look forward to these net on this weekend. And thanks again. Hope you guys all have a great weekend.
Good night, OTR, and of course to Bozo Control.
And let's see if we can gracefully stop the streaming video beaconing its way throughout the universe. Good night, everybody.